Hello, my friends, and welcome back. I am happy. You know why? Well, it's Monday, not a reason to be happy about, but Ukrainian drones did something incredible, which for me personally is kind of like a payback. And I'm not a revengeful person, not at all, but I cannot admit that I did not enjoy it. If you don't know what I'm talking about, then you saw it in the title. Ukrainians blew up the Belgorod Dam. Now, we all remember when Russians blew up the dam in Zaporizhia, flooding a huge portion of the Kherson area, tens of thousands of people with their houses, and it really hardened Ukrainian logistics. It was a true horrifying event. Now, I personally have gotten my payback. We're going to go through all of the videos. We're going to go through the logistics, where the water is rising, where it's flowing. And let me tell you, some Russian, about five Russian brigades, positions face flooding. Their equipment, their dugouts, everything. I'm not going to hide it. I like it. Now, let's watch the video of this happening, and we're given a commentary by some local Russian. Let's enjoy it. This is about 7 a.m. yesterday, by the way. There's it hit. It nailed it. Smacked. Right into the dam. Another one's coming. Hit the engine room. I love these Russian commentators, man. Every time they film something burning or being destroyed in their own country, they don't hold back. They give us the best commentary. Wow, wow. You can hear the small arms fire trying to shoot down the drones. You see that? They actually did shoot down one because this exploded about 3 meters above the dam, so they did hit one of the drones. There's the second one. How many are there? Did you hear that? That was intense. And now it's over. So, this attack damaged the dam, and the dam actually broke a little bit later. So, the attack damaged it. And here is a very short video of the water flooding through the dam. I have many videos for you. We're going to go through all of them. First of all, map. This is Ukraine. This is the dam. I mean, it's better to use this map, I guess. Let me zoom out for you a little bit so you know where we are. This is the area of north of Kharkiv Oblast of Ukraine that Russians occupy. Let me draw something. Wait. See, that's the two areas Russians occupy. Specifically Vovchansk, this village or town here, which Russians occupy about 1/3 and Ukrainians 2/3. And Siversky Donetsk, one of the canals, one of the small rivers goes through that. So, when this dam, let me zoom into the dam for you. See, this dam here broke. The water started slashing down through the very narrow Siversky Donetsk channel. And it came down here, flooding all of this area. Not like this, like I'm making the circle, but the water like more or less in this area, and some flooding in this area into Vovchansk also. This is a very broad way of showing this. But the point is, these units, 82nd Motor Rifle Regiment, for example, I mean, they're shown here on this map, but actually they control these front line here. They have positions across this front line. And you see where this water body is going. So all of this area is their dugouts, their equipment being underwater. And it's not the only unit. There's many units like that. I want to read you the list of units, actually. We have positions of units of the 6th Russian Army, 44th Army Corps, 128th, 116th, 68th, and the 136th Brigades are under threat of flooding. Now, it's not going to be like some massive Hollywood huge wave flooding everything. It's just a gradual flowing of water that floods your dugouts, your ammunition, your food, your weapons, your everything. So it just makes their life living hell. They're not going to drown or anything, but they cannot fight in these conditions, which is wonderful. Let me also read the governor of Belgorod. in Russia what he said about it. As a result of the strike by the Ukrainian armed forces, the dam of Belgorod reservoir was damaged. No, it was broken, my dude. Don't lie to people. We understand that the enemy may attempt another attack and destroy the dam. It was damaged already, we see it in a video. If this happens, there will be a risk of flooding the river, floodplain from Kharkiv region and several streets in our villages, home to approximately 1,000 residents. I don't want civilians to suffer, but a portion of me, I covered this war. I covered when the Russians broke the dam that flooded Arson. A portion of me is very happy right now. Therefore, we are starting to offer temporary accommodation at temporary accommodation points in Belgorod, yada yada. What I wanna read to you is the governor of Belgorod admitting that their soldiers are flooded. Check it out. According to papal sources, in the area village of Krafovka and Shebekinsky district, and further down, the Seversky Donets river, the river that I noticed where the water is going, water flooded dugouts in which soldiers were located. Oh my god, that's so sad. Very nice. Here is another footage for you of the water rushing through the dam. There's a nice little whirlpool here, the whirlpool of revenge. I like it and I enjoy it. Also, I brought you what Belgorod governor thinks of Russia. Now I'll bring you a report from Ukrainian 16th Army Corps from the area. Today the situation is no longer in favor of the Russians. After the attack on the Belgorod Dam, the latter began to leak water. According to Russian media, in just one day the water level in the reservoir dropped by 1 meter. As they say, the water went into the house, or rather into the Seversky Donets canal or river. There are already reports of Russian dugouts being flooded. Wow. But the main thing is that enemy logistics are becoming significantly more complicated. The leaves have also fallen from the trees, so the units that managed to cross the Seversky Donets turned out to be actually cut off from the main forces. So we are waiting for the replenishment of the exchange fund. So yeah, there are areas where this, let me try to draw things again. You see, this is the Seversky Donetsk canal. This is massively flooded. The floodplain, okay, they're like, both sides of this river now have risen, so about this area is flooded. As you can see, some Russian units are now blockaded in this area because they have this small canal on the north and this flooded Seversky Donetsk channel to the west of them. So what do these Russian units in this area do? I don't know, I couldn't care less. I do hope they surrender to replenish the exchange fund, as the 16th Ukrainian Army Corps reported. As you can see, I'm enjoying myself. My friends, after Ukraine wins the war, most things can be rebuilt. But there are things that are gone forever. Let me guide you through a piece of Ukraine's history that is now lost. Hidden 236 feet beneath the ancient ground of Bakhmut hides a secret. The world's deepest wine cellar. This was the birthplace of art wine, crafted using techniques passed down through generations. Art wine is not just a sparkling wine, it's a rare piece of history. On 24th of February 2022, Russia invaded Ukraine, and for a whole year, brave Ukrainian troops defended Bakhmut in the bloodiest battles of the entire war. But in March 2023, Prigozhin with his Wagner group entered the city. The home of art wine fell into the hands of the invaders. Wagner forces did not hide their presence. You can see the officer not believing his eyes. What a treasure they just stumbled upon. Art wine sparkling wine ages for years, and throughout that process, classical music was playing. To the amazement of the occupiers, it was still playing by the time they set their foot into those cellars. You can hear it for yourself. Listen. Not long after that, the leader of the Wagner group, Prigozhin himself, strolls around the cellars admiring the riches of the Ukrainian culture. Prigozhin, in the midst of stealing the bottles, decided to mock the Ukrainian women on Women's Day and wrote a greeting on one of the boxes while his crew was loading the sparkling wine. Today, in 2025, Ukraine is holding, innovating, creating their own missiles and hitting Russia back. This innovation shows in the Flamingo missile. Pink,
like the Brut Rosé sparkling wine from Art Wine. While the Flamingo destroys Russian oil refineries, these last Art Wine bottles wait for someone who cherishes their story. This is you. You have seen the suffering and resilience of Ukrainian people, so it is only right that you get the chance to own this piece of Ukrainian history, the last of its kind, a sparkling wine that will never exist again. I am working together with Art Wine to get you these last bottles, and only you can get the Rehi Flamingo Special Edition. There is even a flamingo sticker on the bottle for you. There is no better gift than this Flamingo sparkling wine. With it, you gift a piece of Ukrainian history and resolve. If you are looking for a meaning in a gift, well, here it is. This is the gift to someone you love. Get these very last bottles from Bakhmut at shop.artwine.com/products/flamingo. For now, these bottles cannot leave the safety of the United States, so only US orders are accepted. A once-in-a-lifetime chance to own or gift a piece of history that will never be made again. Slava Ukraini, my friends.
Alright, my friends, now we continue with the front lines and then we continue with news inside from Russia. 2 segments in this video. First of all, Ukrainian intelligence is reporting that Putin gave out yet another political top-down order that cannot be disobeyed, and it will result in massive losses for the Russians. But if Putin said so, he said so, and we already see direct results from that order. What is the order? I quote, Putin has ordered the Russian armed forces to take Pokrovsk by mid-November. That's about what? About 2 weeks from now. But it's raining. Everything is muddy. Armor doesn't really advance. So it will result in some very good videos I'll show you later. And Russia will not spare any personnel or equipment in this direction. This information is being disseminated based on Ukrainian intelligence. According to the General Staff of the Ukrainian Armed Forces, about 300 Russian soldiers have already leaked into Pokrovsk. See, that's the bad news. Russians have been spotted by Ukrainian drones and the battles are going on in the city center. In Pokrovsk, I have to destroy some ideas. People think it has a rigid front line. These houses are Ukrainian, these are Russian. But no. In Pokrovsk, it's very chaotic. One house controlled by Russians, one house by Ukrainians, and they're mixed up like that all over the city. There's no one rigid front line in the city. It's everybody everywhere. Very crazy situation. You have no idea where the line goes. You can't be surrounded by the Russians who then can't be surrounded by the Ukrainians. It's like a big onion of fighters. Peels layers and layers of fighters in different houses and different basements. Some Russian groups that infiltrate wait for weeks in the basement before they go out to fight, so it's almost impossible to tell which areas are controlled by who. You can only tell if you see the guy next to you is your friend or not. It's really crazy situation in Pokrovsk. So yeah, Russians are in Pokrovsk. It's really bad. But north from Pokrovsk, near Shakhova, I want to show you what happened where Putin orders to charge. The commanders say, but it's mud everywhere. We cannot use armored vehicles. They will be in the mud. But Moscow guys, the general's orders come down and say charge because Putin said so. So 2 days ago, 25th of October, Russians launched 16 armored vehicles into the area of Shakhova, and I want to show you what happened to them. I mean, I'm not going to show you the whole video, but this is a road into Shakhova, which is controlled by Ukrainians, and Russians are trying to take it, so they advance on this road. Sorry, this road is really badly visible, but on both sides of this road are small bonds, like 10 meters across, right? 5 of Russian armored vehicles drove into one of these mud ponds and just stayed there, taking a bath, relaxing on this nice sunny day. Yes, just like that. 5 of the vehicles, which is what, a platoon worth of soldiers, just stuck in a pond. Of course, the soldiers fled and the Ukrainian drones finished the job. We have a location, very nice. So, that's the road, that's the bonds. You can see these vehicles right here. That is Shachova, and this is Mayak. Russians struck through Mayak, and in Pankivka, near Pankivka, is where those platoon worth of soldiers were taking a bath, because Putin ordered so. Just to illustrate to you what rain and mud season in Ukraine really means, since most of Ukraine is very agricultural, meaning it's fields of dirt. And if it's rain, then these fields will turn into mud. So this is a Ukrainian soldier who came back from a patrol with his ATV, and you cannot really see the soldier underneath the mud. I mean, it's only mud. It's his mud armor. So yeah, anything going through Ukrainian fields right now will turn into this. So I'm quite glad that Putin ordered Russian army without any cost to take Pokrovsk in 2 weeks, because it's gonna be bad for them. Okay, so with all that being said, armor is failing, but infantry is not failing. Russian infantry is very successful in getting into these cities. I'm talking Kupiansk and Pokrovsk. They are in Pokrovsk, mixed up with the Ukrainians, different houses, different basements, different forces. It's a crazy situation. But we also get videos like this. This is burning Russian equipment in one of the warehouses in Pokrovsk. And these are Russian troops saying that everything they pushed into Pokrovsk was destroyed by Ukrainian drones. This is actually Russian troops in Pokrovsk making this video, asking for donations from civilians and people back home because they lost all of their equipment. So yeah, not a very good situation. And as you can see, they're injured. So the situation is changing really fast. Basements and houses are changing hands multiple times a day, and you don't know who is there. Because who was there 1 hour ago might not be there anymore. It's a very chaotic urban fighting situation. Ukrainian commanders have described that their army in the last 3 years has made a defense focusing around these big strong points. Avdiivka, Bakhmut, Kupiansk, Pokrovsk. Big towns, right? Relatively big. But the paradox is, Ukrainian commanders now say that it's much easier to defend small villages and tree lines and defensive lines outside of towns because it's barren. There's, trees that have even lost leaves. You can see the armor approaching from 2 kilometers away. You can see the infantry, and it's good to destroy them. In the urban areas, on the contrary, like in Pokrovsk, where different houses on the same streets have different armies in them, it's much more difficult. There's no barbed wire, no anti-tank ditches, no dragon's teeth, and Russian infantry has a lot of place to hide for drones. So, just to illustrate this point even more, how much easier it is to defend fields. Here is one Russian infantry charge, and these are Ukrainian drones heading towards their way. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, maybe 10. 10 drones. Only here it's saturated. They're like mosquitoes. They're everywhere. And they are heading out to take out what, an entire platoon, I would presume. There are so many drones up in the air. I don't know if I can show you. The music is copyrighted probably, but it illustrates. These very same drones would not do so much damage in a city where they would do on an open field. Also talking about Pokrovsk, let me show you topography of the area. This is where the bunny years were. You all know what I'm talking about. The Topography failed Russian offensive that was now liquidated in Kucheriv Yar. Well, you can see these dark lines here are valleys, and the rest of it is a heightened ground. Now, it's not a crazy change in height, but still enough that if you are on high level, high ground, your artillery will be more precise. So when Russians control the high ground, their artillery will be more deadly. And where Ukrainians control the high ground, their artillery is more deadly. If you're in the valley, you are a target from every side. Nobody wants to be in the valleys. This is why Russian charges are trying to break out from these areas. Because, for example, this is the northern encirclement. But the lower area, you can see right here, it's in a valley. They want to get out of this area. They're pushing very heavily but they haven't been managing to do that. So this is why they're taking massive losses in this northern salient of Pokrovsk, where the bunny years happened. I want to show you something that I haven't showed really at all. This is Russians hitting a Ukrainian Iris-T air defense system. Except not. No, they're not. It's a decoy. But this is Russian video to the Russian public saying it's a $50 million Iris-T defense system destroyed. Well, let me show you. Let me show you the video. This is Russians locating it. Okay, and they flew into it. And this is aftermath. Not yet. One moment. This is aftermath. Destroyed. Look, but this is plywood. You can see it's plywood. It's just a decoy. No flames, no fire, nothing. And at the front of it, there's a hook, because these decoys don't have engines, nothing. They're just plywood decoys. So this was towed here by like an ATV or a truck. No Iris-T has this kind of a hook in the front. It's a plywood decoy. And Russians are spreading these kind of videos saying, yeah, we destroyed NATO air defense system, 50 million. I mean, these decoys are not cheap. It's something 15, 20,000. It is in military terms. Why I know? Because I know one company in Estonia who is making CV90 decoys out of plywood. And they're making them so Estonian conscripts can assemble them on the field without any tools, just with their hands. And it's a specific way of designing these decoys. So we're going to assemble them with your hands, and they're assembled CV90s so the real CV90s would not be hit. I'm connected to this topic. It's very important. Ukrainians are ordering these decoys about F-16s, Iris-T, Patriot missiles, HIMARS. They have decoys about everything. Plywood HIMARS versions all across the fronts. This is where Gerasimov gets his numbers of 150 HIMARS systems destroyed, because they have destroyed quite many decoys. You see the kaboom, and then there's plywood everywhere suddenly. That's a decoy. So yeah, what I just mentioned to you, let's get to Gerasimov immediately. So Putin visited command points of the Russian northern forces near Kupiansk, not in occupied Ukraine, in Russian territory, of course. And Gerasimov is there to give Putin the report of what's happening. So Putin is speaking. Here is Gerasimov, very serious, very sad. Look at this sad, oh my God. Well, he reported that about 5,000 Ukrainian troops are surrounded in Kupiansk, which is like a bucket of horseshit, honestly. And he reports, I've seen his reports, he periodically reports that they destroy tens of systems of Western air defense by Ukraine, that they shoot down F-16s and they destroy these very expensive NATO weapon systems, sometimes that are not even in Ukraine. So in this specific one, yeah, 5,000 Ukrainian troops are surrounded in Kupiansk. Bullshit. All right, my friends, time to butcher some names. I enjoyed my Monday today because the Belgorod Dam was blown up, and I'm gonna enjoy butchering these names. We have Mike. Then we have Jose A. Alfaro 2, or Cox in Estonia. Jose, I know you're supposed to say Jose. I say Jose because that's how we read it in Estonian. And finally, Tim Collins. These three heroes have joined Buy Me a Coffee membership. You can do the same and I'll be butchering your name also. Let me also read you a comment from a previous video where I talked about the somewhat dangerous situations of Ukrainians in Pokrovsk and in Kupiansk. Field Marshal 3 commented on that. It is important to be honest, but it's also important to keep in mind that propaganda isn't always just something bad that needs to be avoided at all costs. Obviously, giving people false hope with lies is bad, but I don't see anything wrong with stuff like showing Russian politicians being stupid and then laughing about it. Too much propaganda can make people not take you seriously, but focusing too much on negativity can make people despair and give up. There is the truth. I like this. It's not a black and white viewpoint as many people have. It's a fluid viewpoint. You need a balance of information. You need to give hope, but you need to tell the truth. If the truth is sad, you need to sugarcoat it sometimes not, depending on the situation. I agree with this. Alright, let's travel inside Russia. Let's travel straight to Moscow, because now it's the Russia segment. What you see on this map is all air defense systems positions around Moscow and in Moscow, and according to the colors we can even see what they are. So Putin has ordered a ring of air defenses. See, Moscow has these highways, 3 highways, city center highway, around the urban area, and then far around Moscow. 3 highways, and they call it the road of death because there's so many accidents here. You don't even need war for people to die in Moscow just because of traffic, of the road of death. But these air defense systems, I see they follow this road of death actually. The outer one consists of S-300s. Most of these are S-300 systems around the outer highway. Then there's the inner highway. We see around this and a little bit further away more S-300s, and the closest air defense systems in the city center are usually Panzer S systems. Also around the medium one, the secondary ring, there's S-400s here also, but a lot less of them. Majority here is S-300s. And you can see why there's a shortage of S-300s on the front line and in Crimea, for example, because they are focused around Moscow, because everybody who has any money or any power in Russia lives in Moscow. That's black and white in Russia. That's how it is. So yeah, you gotta defend them. If you don't, they will have power to put you out of power. I'm talking about Putin. So yeah, they have to be defended, and you can see it's a massive concentration of air defense systems, Panzer S, S-300 and S-400. But it doesn't really help, because still around Moscow, this happened yesterday, 26th of October, Cherpukhov, this is Moscow region. Fuel silos still exploded because of Ukrainian drones. Even with such a concentration of S-300, S-400 and Panzer S, still fuel silos are exploding. I mean, what the hell? If that doesn't protect them, nothing will. And it gets even worse. This shows you how they feel, how safe they feel in Kremlin. If they deploy technicals or pickup trucks with mobile air defense crews right outside the Kremlin walls, what does it say to you? Does a country who has very effective air defense systems of S-300 and S-400s that work, does that country do that? No. A country that doesn't really trust their own missile systems has to do that. We can see, based on that they have these technicals outside of Kremlin, we can see how they feel about their own air defense rings around Moscow. They don't really trust them that much. I want to now bring to you a Russian imperialist blogger and a former Russian Marine, Ivan Otrakovsky. This dude looks like the devil. Look at him, looks very evil. But I always like when these kind of guys speak up about the bad situation of Russia. These guys 100% are so Russian imperialist, so New Russia, Ruski Mir, they're so embedded in it that if they speak the truth about it, then you must know, you can trust it, because they're trying to save their country. It's doing so bad that they cannot spread the propaganda anymore. So this is why I always like to get this information from inside Russian sources. I quote him, "Production reduction has begun in factories belonging to Russia's military-industrial complex." See, Russian military-industrial complex is supposed to have all of the money. They are the ones who are not supposed to reduce output. It's the civilians who are supposed to suffer. But no, even now the situation is changing. This sector has been the main driver of Russian economy since the start of the so-called special military operation, thanks to trillions of rubles allocated through state orders. For the first time since then, the defense industry is facing stagnation or contraction, as confirmed by Rostat data. This is the result of cooling policy of an overheated economy, implemented by the central bank with full support from Russian government. And this dude is not happy about it. Look at his face. But yeah, a full 100% Russian-blooded imperialist speaks the truth about Russian military-industrial complex stagnating. I like it when I see it from sources like that, because I know I can trust them, because they are really trying to save Russia. They are not going to be able to succeed on that. So these are all signals of weakening central powers. And weakening central power in Russia, weakening Putin, weakening Kremlin means more criminal gangs, the rise of their power. It means the different indigenous groups in Russia, which there are many and many and many, will get more power, and they will not rise up but fight for more of their rights. They will act more emboldened, I would say. And what is a symptom of this in the Kremlin is that Putin is really paranoid. He's afraid of a coup. When Russian central power weakens, there's gonna be a coup. This is how power changes in Russia, and it always changes when the central power weakens. It is weakening now, so of course they're expecting a coup, because that's just how Russia works. That's how they have worked for forever, since the beginning of time. So, how do you know they're expecting a coup? Well, because there's massive paranoia and they're accusing each other. This is where it begins, the finger pointing. The FSB has already accused the Russian anti-military committee of attempting a violent overthrow of state power, which even Russian experts call the Kremlin's new paranoia. Analysts believe that Putin is desperately trying to discredit any opposition and portrays the West as the instigator of internal problems to distract the population from severe sectoral crisis already existing within Russia. And just to illustrate, one of the symptoms that I mentioned about the weakening central power is this CCTV footage which came out like 2 days ago in St. Petersburg. Nice G-Wagon, by the way. But this is a kidnapping. Criminal gangs, organized crime, whoever they are, groupings, they kidnap the son of the State Duma deputy Vyacheslav Makarov, after which he was confined and beaten until cash was transferred. Similar recently happened to footballer Andrei Mostovoy. These things happen, the more they work, the more the bad guys get the money, the more this happens. And this happens in Russia always when the central power weakens. This was the 90s and this was any power transition. The same thing happened. It's a symptom of a transitioning period. And I'm not glad that people are being kidnapped. It's very bad. But I'm glad to see that there are symptoms of a transition period in Russia. Another symptom is arson. This has been going on for quite some time. Let me show you a compilation video. This comes from inside Russia. And these people are not Ukrainians or Ukrainian partisans. These are Russians who are disillusioned by the government and they want to change it. And they see Ukrainians as big part of changing the Russian government. So they are working to weaken their Russian military-industrial complex by arson. They're not pro-Ukraine. They're pro-Russia, but a different Russia than now. So they side with the Ukrainians for that. It's so easy to burn a relay cabinet. It's so easy to burn anything that is not guarded. And in Russia, most things are not guarded. So you can see it's pour it on, light a match, run away, and they gotta fix it for the next week. So easy. And they're doing it en masse. It's very painful for logistics. Especially where trains hit each other. That happens in Russia. And I will end today's video with international news from Lithuania. You know, in Lithuania, on 5th and on 21st of October, 2 days, Belarusian balloons, weather balloons or whatever you want to call them, flew over the border into Lithuania. Everybody suspects that they are for contraband, for cigarettes, to smuggle them into Lithuania. Lithuanians don't like it, of course. Nobody does. So they closed the border now. They closed it about 2 days ago for a period of time. But today they closed it for indefinitely. They're going to meet and discuss how long, but right now it's indefinitely. Poland did it, Lithuania did it, Finland did it at some point. Every country next to Russia and Belarus seemed to have a reason to close the border because it is only shit that comes over that border. I'm glad, and I do hope we do the same. We haven't, by the way. In Estonia, the border is still open. I'm looking at the government, I hope they close it. But I just want to let you know, Lithuanians did it, and I'm glad about it. My friends, thank you for coming back. And half of you are not subscribed. I don't know what game are you playing, but you gotta subscribe to the channel, my friends, to be notified when I upload. I'll be back for you on Wednesday with everything we just talked about. I'll update you on that. Until then, Slava Ukraini, and bye-bye.